Hi, Nima. Thank you very much for inviting me. It's a great pleasure being on your show.
So just let us know what's going on in Tehran. Last night, everybody was talking about two delegations. One, the Pakistani official, which is the head of the army in Pakistan, Asim Munir, Pakistani army chief. He was in Tehran negotiating, talking with Iranian officials. And then we've learned the Qatari delegation went to Iran as well, and they're doing their job. I don't know, they're representing GCC countries or they have a different sort of message for Iranian officials. What was happening last night?
Well, the U.S. or um, the Trumpian uh, talks, the U.S.-Iranian talks, or we shouldn't call them talks, the negotiations, the messages being sent back and forth, because there's no direct communication between the two sides. But the message that are passing back and forth are happening more swiftly. And I think the reason why the Pakistanis are in Iran is to make the process move forward more rapidly. The Iranians do not want direct negotiations. They don't want indirect negotiations. They prefer messages to go back and forth and to be written to make sure that there's no ambiguity, because the Americans have lied to Iran a lot in the past in their through verbal statements, and also the mediators, when something is verbal, then it's not clear if the messages go through exactly as they should. So it's the Iranians want them all to be written, and so I think the texts are going back and forth at a more rapid. I can't say much more rapid pace. I don't know, but I would imagine at a more rapid pace than before. The Qataris, they're not mediators, so I don't know the details of the trip, but they came and went, and they probably had something to do with the negotiations. But but in any case, at the end of the day, this is between Iran and the United States, and the only thing that is important is what's in the two and the messages being sent by the Iranians and the messages being sent by the Americans. My understanding is that there is some flexibility on the Americans. But the question is how much and how far is the United States prepared to go? And so far, there's no breakthrough. And at least until I last heard, there's no breakthrough. I'm not, I don't think there's any breakthrough as we speak either. And it could go either way. The Iranian armed forces are on full alert. They're they they thought there was I mean, for the last 3 weeks they've been expecting possible U.S. strikes, but last night they were uh, taking it seriously. I personally didn't think it would happen last night because of the ongoing talks. It would not look good at all when the Pakistani uh, army chief is in Tehran and the United States assaults the country. Doesn't make sense. Although Trump is not a rational or reasonable person, so it could happen anyhow. But in any case, we'll have to see where that goes. I think I don't think that uh, uh, it's. I think there is a possibility that there could be a deal, but I think the possibility for another attack on Iran is quite high as well. It could go either way. The Iranians are not going to be very flexible, and it's obvious why. They won the war, and they didn't start the war. And in the U.S. siege warfare, the United States is hurting more than the world economy and the United States are hurting more than Iran. I mean, in the long run, they're hurting more. I mean, the global crisis is about to hit very hard. They don't have much time. The Iranians can wait longer. The Iranians are more patient for a host of reasons. One is that they're victims. Iranians, being Shia Muslims in particular, that sense of resilience and resistance is very strong in them. Resistance against the oppressor, and that is something very deep in Iranian culture. And of course, we didn't start the war. That strengthens that sense of resilience. And the Americans made a mistake at the beginning of the war. They didn't impose the siege on Iranian ports from day one. Iran did its trade for the duration of the war in a week or so, or 10 days afterwards, using the Strait of Hormuz without any difficulty. And the Americans even removed the sanctions on Iranian oil for a period of time where Iran had a lot of oil on the high seas. The Iranians were actually expecting the Americans to impose a siege from the very beginning. And they were very pleasantly surprised to see that they didn't. Um, so right now, I mean, let's look at Western assessments. I think about a month ago, the Americans were saying that the Iranians can tolerate this for like 4 months. I don't know if I think it's correct. I don't. I mean, the U.S. intelligence has told the Washington Post and the Wall Street Journal that Iranian missile and drone and military capabilities are much better and much greater than was initially perceived. Well, we've been saying that all along. But if we say it's propaganda, if they admit it with week after weeks of delay, it's news. But even that is an understatement. The Iranians are more prepared today than they were before the war. Militarily, the economy is definitely doing worse, and life is more difficult. Inflation is higher, but militarily speaking, the Iranians are more prepared for war than they were 3 months ago. So, so let's say that the U.S. intelligence services, their 4 months estimate of Iran is correct. Let's say 1 month has passed, 3 months. From what we're hearing from uh, economists and energy market experts, the real crisis, when things begin to become really bad in the global economy is weeks away, not 3 months away. So if it's going to be a waiting game, the Iranians can outwait the United States. If the Americans had started the siege from day one, let's say if we agree with the 4 months, I don't think it's 4 months. I think Iran can wait much longer, but let's say it's 4 months. Then that would make it like a month and a half. That would make them closer to each other, right? So if we cut, let's say the 3 months that are left, if we remove a month and a half from that, if the Americans had started from day one, then let's say the Iranians could wait a month and a half. The Americans can wait maybe, I don't know, 3-4 weeks. I don't know, but it would have made a difference. I believe Iran still would have had the upper hand, and but it would have strengthened the U.S. position. I think the reason why they didn't do it from day one was because they thought that they would win the war easily, and they didn't want the global markets to become unstable and would just be a glitch. And then after a few weeks, things would go back to normal. So they didn't look at it from that. But I think it was a major tactical mistake, which is not reversible. It's too late. But again, I stress that even if they had done an Iran would still have the upper hand, in my opinion. So right now, the Iranians are more patient than the Americans. The Iranian society is more resilient. They're willing to tolerate much more than the Americans. The military is prepared for war. It's more prepared now than before. In siege warfare, the Iranians have the upper hand, as I've been explaining. And the Americans are in a rush. They want a deal now. And it's obvious why they're in a rush. It's because of the global economic crisis. The Iranians are not in a rush. That I know. That I know. I can say that with 100% confidence that they're not in a rush. So that gives Iran even extra advantage. So that's where we are. I don't know if there's going to be a deal though, because the Americans are going to. I don't think there's going to be a comprehensive deal. If there is one, it's going to probably be something like the ceasefire that we had, but perhaps larger in scope. But I don't think we're going to have a comprehensive.
Yesterday, we've heard that maybe the United States is giving the green light to Israel attacking Iran without the active participation of the United States. Then the Iranian response cannot be attacking on, the attacks on GCC countries, because Israel is attacking Iran. There is no, reason for Iran to attack GCC countries. What is this logic? What is your understanding of that?
It's not going to work. Yeah, it's not. I saw that too. And first of all, the Israelis don't have those capabilities. And even in the last war, the 12-day war, the Israelis were their jets were being refueled by the Americans, and so and the equation has changed. Iran is, not. It's not going to be like it was before. Iran is going to assert its power, and it's going to punish Israel, the Israeli regime, and its allies. There's no doubt about it. The Emirates, I think, would, it would be a bad day for them if the Israelis attacked Iran. That's for sure. I think that Iran would just, I, if the, if that happens, I think I would definitely not like to be in them. If war starts, I wouldn't like to be anywhere in any of these countries, but especially the Emirates. These are just wishful. This is wishful thinking on behalf of the Americans. The Iranians are going to. This will be the big war. This will be bigger than the previous war, and it will. It's going to end one way or another. So I don't know if there's going to be an agreement. I don't know if we're going towards war, but the Americans are not going to be able to play these games with Iran anymore. That era is finished.
And what do we know about the range of Iranian missiles? Because they said IRGC has announced that if the war starts, it's not gonna be a regional war. It's gonna go beyond the region. And yesterday I was talking with my, the experts and the friends we have on this podcast. There were some sort of doubts. What is the range of Iranian missiles, and how are they going to be able to increase that range? And because we know, by the way, that the former supreme leader of Iran, Ayatollah Khamenei, because of his policy, his strategy, he said we have to be limited to, for example, this a particular range for the missiles. But right now, what do we know about that? Is that going to change because of this war of aggression against Iran? And they know that they're using the American bases in Romania, Germany, Greece, and other countries. They're using these bases against Iran.
Yeah, I think that when they say that Iran is going to respond beyond, its response is going to go beyond the region, I think that is definitely uh, it's going to happen. And I don't know whether like Iran will strike Diego Garcia or something like that. I mean, in these far off places, the Americans are much more vulnerable because their assets are not well protected. They're out there in the open. So Iran, if a few missiles hit somewhere far off, then they could do a lot of damage to the United States. But also, Iran's allies in the region are now much more prepared. Yemen is very prepared for war, and the Iraqi resistance is prepared to escalate far beyond what it did last time round. And as I said, the Iranian military capabilities are much stronger than they were 3 months ago. So it'll be devastating, and it will not go well for the United States or the Israeli regime or their regional proxies. And there's no way that the Americans are going to be able to carry out some type of limited war and get away with it, or have the Iranians respond in a way which would please the United States. The Iranians will strike back in a way in which it suits their interests. This is a broad anti-Iranian coalition. It's a broad coalition against the axis of resistance. It's a broad coalition against uh, the free people of the region, the Iranians, Yemen, Iraq, the Iraqi resistance, Hezbollah, the Palestinians, and Iran will deal with it both regionally and beyond. Also, there are other things that can be contemplated about global energy markets. I mean, with the technologies that exist today, the production of oil could easily be stopped outside of this region. I mean, the Republic of Azerbaijan is one place, but that's closer to home. But you can envisage places which are under U.S. occupation or taken hostage by the United States, or Libya, uh, or other places where the United States, the West, they have major interests which could be targeted. I I have no idea what this could mean, but in today's world, when the Israeli regime carries out assassinations uh, from thousands of kilometers away, or they bomb targets by flying over multiple countries, I think that it's it's when the Americans and the Israelis have uh, created uh, a jungle and are imposing the law of the jungle, then they shouldn't expect others not to respond in kind.
When you talk about we may reach some sort of agreement, is this agreement some sort of document about the preconditions for the next round of negotiations? What is that? Because many people are arguing there is no negotiations going on. There is no active talks between the two parties. We have Pakistan, sending messages, giving the American message to Iranian and taking the Iranian message and deliver it to the American. What is that? And what do we know about? Let's assume they reach some sort of positive outcome. What is that positive outcome?
Well, yes, you're right. There are no negotiations. There's no direct communications. They're just letters. The Pakistanis are not uh, doing much more than sending the letters back and forth. What I'm hearing is that the Americans are showing some flexibility, but not nearly enough. So there's no reason to believe that there will be a big breakthrough at all. And it could be that tomorrow morning at this time we may be at war. Maybe tonight we may be at war. Maybe the day after. After all, this is a 3-day weekend, and they like starting wars during weekends. A 3-day weekend in the United States because Memorial Day is on Monday. So um, this may be the time that and we know that the United States loves carrying out wars while they're negotiating, in the hope of uh, like on both occasions when they launched the 12-day war, they were negotiating with Iran, and the negotiations it turned out, were just a ploy. They just wanted to uh, make the Iranians think that there won't be war. Then before this war, we were negotiating and there was progress. And the foreign minister of Oman went to the United States saying that there was significant progress. And then they launched the war. And then after the war, we had the ceasefire. And the Americans, instead of abiding by the ceasefire, they impose a blockade on Iranian ports. And the Israelis, of course, are carrying out genocidal attacks against Lebanese civilians as we speak. So negotiations with the United States don't necessarily mean anything. And messages being sent back and forth through the Pakistanis don't necessarily mean anything either. As I said, we could wake up tomorrow morning and war will have started, despite the fact that we're hearing that the Americans are showing some flexibility. Maybe they're showing flexibility so to fool Iran into thinking that war is off the table. But that's not going to work. The Iranians are 100% prepared for war. And their working assumption is that there will be war. That is the working assumption. The assumption is that there will be war. It's a given. Now, if the negotiations get anywhere, fine. But they're planning for war. But if there is going to be an agreement, the Iranians are not going to be very flexible. Why? Because they won the war. They're the victim. They have the upper hand. And in the siege warfare, the Americans have used a double-edged sword. Yes, they've besieged Iran, but they've besieged the global economy now for almost 3 months too. And the global economy, from